Heat Guy J was one of Satellite's early shows directed by Kazuki Akane with character designs by Nobuteru Yuki, a guy who's done all sorts of stuff, but the specific style he used for this series was the exact same as his past success with Akane, Escaflowne. It doesn't seem to have had a significant impact on either the East or West, which is a shame because, in spite of its flaws, I was surprised by how well it was executed overall and just how well everything came together. The series takes place in the futuristic city of Judo and focuses on Special Service Officers Daisuke Aurora and his android partner Jay as they work to try and prevent crimes before they happen under their boss Shun, who also happens to be Daisuke's older brother. Daisuke and Shun both share a mysterious and emotional past that is slowly revealed as the series goes on. Meanwhile, the actual protagonists, Jay and Daisuke, start off by solving initially episodic crimes, as they meet all sorts of colorful characters along with having constant run-ins with the local mafia, a group recently taken over by the crazy teenage emo Bishonen Claire after the death of his father. Yet both sides gradually become involved in a larger and more complicated plot as the series goes on. It's a very well-executed science fiction noir series with a lot of focus in terms of both direction and story being on the city itself. As the show goes on, you become warmly familiar with its locations and citizens. Beyond just creating emotional attachment, this makes the investigations feel more grounded, and gives the largely episodic first half of the series a small-scale, daily life feeling. As early as episode 1, storyboarded and written by Akane himself, the visuals place a significant focus on the city of Judo, with the camera at times focusing on a panoramic view instead of the character who's currently speaking. This can serve as budget saving too, of course, as some backgrounds and even bits of animation are reused across the series. But it also adds to the atmosphere of familiarity along with the feeling that the city itself is almost a character of its own. Speaking of characters, they're pretty great overall. Daisuke is a very charismatic and chill guy who manages to come across like he has everything under control even if, quite often, he absolutely doesn't. Yet under his careless, no fucks given demeanor, he's a very loving and understanding guy with a very strong sense of justice. As the only android that is legally allowed to exist in the town of Judo and a machine that can develop a unique personality from his interactions with humans, Jay's emotional importance to the audience goes up as the series goes on, just as Daisuke himself learns to see him as less of a soulless mechanical helper and more of a living partner. He's also an incredibly badass and manly character that is oozing with charisma despite his animation being intentionally very robotic. His design is heavily inspired by Long John Silver from the 70s Osamu Dezaki directed Treasure Island anime, a show that Jay's character designer actually worked on early on in his career, and he has a tendency to give out a constant stream of one-liners about what it means to be a real man. Speaking of 70s anime, another awesome character is Monica, whose design is straight out of Isao Takahata's Anne of Green Gables series. Her personality, however, contrasts quite a bit with her design. As a homeless girl with a pretty careless mother, she developed a really mature and cynical attitude for her age, yet it's not handled in a try-hard, depressing way, and she remains one of the most comical characters. Another favorite of mine is crime scene investigator Ken Edmundo, who's perhaps the most grounded and realistic side character both in terms of writing and character design, with not one but two heavily melancholic and dramatic episodes. He's a guy that life hasn't been particularly nice to, yet who always tries to be the best person he can be and never devolves into cynicism. And this also results in some hilarious chemistry between him and Monica.
愛だ。人は金だけじゃ幸せになれねえ。愛だ。愛さえあれば人は幸せに生きていける。
だせ
なんでだよ。
Then there's the, in more ways than one, Lone Wolf Boma, a mysterious superpowered swordsman who, unlike a lot of other silent badasses, actually has a very good and sympathetic reason for behaving in a strange and socially retarded way, one that I won't give out in this review. His scenes also have some of the best visuals in the show, with some wonderfully expressionistic and atmospheric color use and animation, which really nails home the fact that the inside of his head is a very confused and tortured place. Other characters include the charmingly silly accountant of the special services Kyoko, Daisuke's kinda sorta love interest, and Antonia, the motherly creator of Jay, who put more of her past into the android than you'd think at first glance. And then Claire, the guy in charge of the Leonelli family, will be the favorite character of yaoi fangirls. I like him, but if I reveal more about him beyond he's a batshit crazy psycho who enjoys being a batshit crazy psycho, I'll be spoiling the hell out of the story, so just watch the show. There are a lot of characters, yet most of them, even the villains, are portrayed in a very human and understanding way that makes it hard to not feel at least some level of empathy towards them. Jake's portrayal of humanity can be pretty dark, yet it never descends into cynicism and keeps to a charmingly positive air. You have all of these memorable human figures and locations, and the episodic part of the story serves to cement them in the viewer's minds. Only for the more plot-heavy second half, the one centering around the grand conspiracy and the shadowy figure controlling Judo, to bring them all together in a way that makes everything feel very planned out. This is a consistently well-written show that knows what it's doing, and while I was worried the story might take a shitty turn, it never did, and everything fell satisfyingly into place. There are some themes that are not fully explored, but I think they weren't really meant to be. There is an episode centered around the Celestials, the technologically advanced group keeping all of humanity's remaining cities alive from behind the scenes, with mysterious technology that is beyond regular citizens' comprehensions, but it ends up being a side story more than anything else. The actual focus of the show's political intrigue remains the town of Judo. While I'm sure some may see this as bad writing, I think it fits very well with the grand scheme. There are larger forces at work, and the best the characters can do is try to maintain order in their own small slice of the world. Visually, the show can have some minor flaws, yet it does a great job when it really matters. It's an early digital show, so the coloring can look a bit washed out, and it can sometimes mesh strangely with the traditionally inked outlines. There might be an out-of-place 3D model or After Effect in there, as of course this was the early 2000s and anime studios were still experimenting. Yet at their best, the colors and computer use work very well, like the fantastic use of 3D backgrounds from episode 1. Yuki's unique, highly detailed character designs look gorgeous when fully polished, yet a 26-episode show without a particularly huge budget can't always look polished. The less detailed shots can look a bit silly, as the complicated shapes of the characters aren't so easy to simplify. Yet the staff knew how to handle their time and money, as the important moments aren't harmed by out-of-place rushed artwork. The animation is largely limited, yet when it can afford to go all the way, it definitely goes all the way with some extremely badass and well-directed action scenes. There aren't many robot versus robot fight sequences in the show, but when they happen, they're a major event that's hard to forget, often punctuated by this recurring punch-clashing effect. And hey, they did a cross-counter in the final episode. Can't have a 70s anime-inspired show without an Ashitano Joe reference after all. A really great visual standout is episode 11, one of the two Edmundo-focused ones. It has some of the loosest and most unique animation in the show, at times looking almost like something out of Kemonozume, with its sketchy yet naturally animated drawings of suited figures and a fantastic sense of direction that perfectly complements the confusing and dreamlike nature of the story. And to get into a specific scene, look at this awesome explosion. The first half looks like something out of an 80s anime, and then here they digitally painted every single frame of its fluid motion in a downright painstaking way. Jay might not always look fantastic, there's obvious budget saving, and there can be some strange animation here and there, but at its best, it's really cool in terms of motion, drawings, and color, and even the wonkier moments can have a great sense of cinematography. That's after all a big part of the appeal of anime. The average scene is limited and mostly driven by cool angles, so that the big moments can go all the way with the motion. And then there's a detail I absolutely love, the way Jay often dashes into the frame from off-screen. This is taken to the next level in the final episode in a way that I will not spoil here. The soundtrack kicks ass too, with some really interesting vocal samples, sounds, and instruments coming together in very unique compositions. It helps enforce Judo's strange, at times dark, yet also grandiose and beautiful atmosphere, and I recommend looking up the soundtrack on YouTube. I'm not sure why this show never caught on, but I suspect it's mainly a matter of failed marketing along with poor airtimes and locations in both the East and West. I mean, who the hell watches MTV2 for anime? It's full of things that should have become iconic as far as 2000s anime goes. It's got an intriguing setting and very charming characters, it's visually memorable, and it has consistently great writing that knows what it wants to do and does it well. So give it a watch.